My name is Mwanyota Lewela. I am the .ke Chief Evangelist at the Kenya Network Information Center, KeNIC. KeNIC is at the heart of the internet ecosystem in Kenya, and we are truly a unique PPP. So KeNIC is fashioned in a framework where the private sector, public sector comes together to ensure that we are able to deliver the internet domains to all Kenyans. So my own characterization of 2023, it's been broadly challenging for the most part for many Kenyans, with high inflation, a lot of pressure for jobs, many leaders having to decide whether to cut back on spending and so on. So KeNIC has not been spared, because remember, the .ke lives on the back of Kenyans going online. So we've also seen a bit of a slowdown in terms of business uptake for .ke domains. But having said that, that has been also accelerated by our partnerships. So our partners are really at the core of us delivering on our mandate. We have registrars who sell our .ke on behalf of KeNIC and to all Kenyans. We have the government of Kenya driving its digital strategy, which has really pushed the agenda for Kenyans going online in terms of government services. I would say academia, because we do partner with the Kenya network of all universities and tertiary institutions. So I would say the partnerships from both the private sector and the public sector have been what has really helped us accelerate on the backdrop of a difficult economy. So that would be my quick characterization of how we've done as KeNIC. And I'm happy to say there's still been growth, north of 5%, which in the domain space is really robust growth. The average top-level domain in Africa grows between 3 and 4%. So while as Kenya would like to accelerate into double-digit growth, in a difficult environment, I would say the growth has been robust. When I look into the horizon, I see immense opportunity in the internet space, and being the engine of that growth as a critical infrastructure provider, we are still hopeful that we can do double-digit growth going into 2024, 25, and beyond. Now, key to that will still remain collaboration and partnerships. Our vision is still that KeNIC, or this CCTLD, that is .ke, remains a model registry in Africa and continues to be innovation driven into the future. So we still anticipate that there will be a resurgence, there will be a recovery in the economy. We are optimistic that some of the foundational work that's being done as a sector to the digital economic blueprint, as the economy starts to recover amidst global pressure, we will see more businesses continuing with their online push. So e-commerce, government service delivery, digital entrepreneurs going online, a lot of the schools going online, the healthcare system being digitized, SMEs really leveraging technology. These are some of the accelerators we see that will trigger double-digit growth into the future. So we are very optimistic, very bullish that there will be a recovery, and for us that will mean acceleration. So my own, if I was to look into the horizon, I see a strong, 10 to 15% growth into next year. But this will be driven through strong partnerships, both locally and international. strengthening our registrar ecosystem, pushing innovation into the whole ecosystem. And as Kenyans get used to the regulatory environment around data protection, as we continue building the rails around the trust, I see more adoption going forward. And remember, the demographics around Kenya is that we have a lot of young people still coming through from universities, setting up businesses. So I'm more on the optimistic side, to be honest. The three-R model is really the registry at the top, which is KeNIC. We operate the registry. We have our registrars, as you rightfully put it, at the middle, who are really our sell-through or our channel. And then at the bottom, we have the owner of the domain, who is the registrant. And this three-R model has worked for us quite effectively because we don't have to compete with the registrars. The registrant has somebody they can hold accountable. And at the very top, we can give oversight over this process. So at the last count, we are at about 200 registered registrars and resellers on our ecosystem. And it's a decent number, but for me, the question is how effectively are our registrars playing in the ecosystem in terms of delivering value? Because the reality is that only 20% of those 200 are delivering 80% of our revenue. So we still have a lot out there that is not being delivered by majority of our registrars. So the question is, even as we try to bring on board more registrars, more resellers, we always want to ensure that we empower them to maximize on their business and our business so that the registrant, the holder of the .ke domain, receives value. So it's a conversation we are continuing to have with our registrars, some of them who have really served us for a long time, so that it makes sense for them to invest in the domain space. We give them the opportunities there, but they are committed. So we also are pushing that they stay true to being registrars so that it is a win-win for the registrant who benefits and the whole ecosystem. We ultimately believe that they're business people, so it has to make sense for them as well. And it's a continuous conversation. We often meet with them to ensure that everyone benefits in that 3R model. There's some elasticity in terms of pricing, but we've tried to keep it steady over the last 2 years. And oftentimes we take time before we review our prices based on the dynamics in the market. What I'm happy to report to you is that there's a lot of price predictability with KeNIC. Our partners can rest assured that we have a competitive price in the market, and they will not expect any shifts mid-year that might impact their business. So we've always consulted with our ecosystem of registrars before we make any major price moves. And we'll continue to do this. When we do a quick benchmark around other competing registries in Africa and globally, we are happy to say that our price points are also very competitive. So we are not getting a big pressure there. But when we have to relook those numbers, we will, and we will always consult with many of our stakeholders. So we are delighted we were able to deliver a successful KDNS Forum 2023. This is an annual event. It's a flagship for KeNIC. We are delighted that as we were closing the 2-day event, we had 800 unique interactions with delegates who either attended physically or in the virtual space. So a major win for us. And being third in a row, we are excited to say that we are seeing a lot of appreciation of the domain namespace, and we'll continue to bring this knowledge and awareness to the public. As you rightfully said, we had two themes. On the one hand, we were looking at what is happening in the domain space vis-a-vis the cybersecurity realities. And Kenya, for example, loses 4 billion shillings due to cyber threats every year. So this is an emerging theme that we cannot ignore. As we improve our internet space, as we improve our internet governance, as we bring more people online, the so-called attack surface for the internet continues to increase. And this means there are also weak points or potential areas that people can take advantage of. So the forum was trying to bring this to the fore, allow practitioners, allow internet users to start imagining what threats there might be and how to address them. The second sub-theme that we touch on is then how to unleash the power of domains. Remember, the domain name system is the gateway to the internet. And so as we bring Kenyans online, we also want them to see the opportunities with clarity. So on the one hand, we have people who create value on the internet, our registrars, people who build websites, people who bring e-commerce engines. But also for the user, there's a lot of value in terms of transacting online, and the idea is to do it securely, consuming government services online, and so on. So we're looking at the domain opportunities very broadly. Not only the value of the domain to the person who either owns or sells a domain in our ecosystem, but how you can extract value more broadly, create opportunities to really make yourself discoverable, for lack of a better word, online, so that anyone looking for goods or services that you might own or present can find you online. And so these are the myriad of opportunities we see for Kenyans. And we'll continue to avail infrastructure securely, reliably, so that they can derive this value, either from the supply side or from the demand side. So we're exploring a lot of this, and we are happy to say that we felt that there was value for all the people who participated in terms of exploring those two thematic areas. Post-COVID, I would say we are very fortunate that we now have our physical dimensions of life back. So I continue to see a bit of a hybrid approach where we have benefited a lot from a lot of our partners on the webinar space. And it allows us to really cast the net wide in terms of awareness creation without the limitations of the physical space. So I see us continuing to do very specialized webinars around some of the themes on internet safety, for example, content creation, and we did a couple this year. So I see that still being an effective engagement tool for us in the virtual space. But now that physical is back, I also see us spending some time going across the country, all counties, activating opportunities wherever they might be, through our partnerships, really. So it's going to be a bit of both. A few physical events, some of which we will drive, but majority through our partners, and campaigns, webinars, and the virtual space will continue to really work in our favor, because it is limitless, no boundaries there. For me, at the top of that list is partnerships and innovative projects. So we want to make the .ke brand really permeate to every part of society. So we want it to go to the lowest point of this country, at the world level. And how will we do this? We see strategic partners like the one we have with the ICT authority in government, so that as the government extends itself to the world level in terms of digital footprint, we carry along the .ke brand. all the way to the bottom, so that every Kenyan understands that it's an asset for them. So for me, at the top of the list is innovation and strategic partnerships. And we'll continue to explore this with SMEs, in the healthcare, in the education space, and any other subsector that we believe has been falling behind, but we can accelerate. I think the second one will be internal. At KeNIC, we also want to ride the innovation wave by modernizing and ensuring that we are able to deliver on our mandate for our internal users in terms of how they use data, and that will hopefully empower them to serve the customer better. So, Gitau, I believe sometimes you have to look inward before you look outward. So I'll be spending a lot of time retooling and rekitting our teams internally so that they are more effective in terms of serving the registrars, who are primary shareholders or stakeholders, and downstream the registrants. And then the third and most important thing for me going forward is to continue being the gold standard for a registry in Africa. What does a model registry look like? And for us, at the center of that will be, in the KeNIC, the Kenya Network Information Center, how do we unleash information for our ecosystem? So again, we will be looking at what tools can we develop externally and internally to really bring a lot of this information to bear for all our ecosystem players. Because as everyone says, data and information is the new oil. So how do we build the analytics around the information that we are learning as we go in the internet ecosystem at KeNIC to serve the internet ecosystem better? So those will be the three pillars that really, for me, will drive KeNIC into the next 3, 5, and 10-year horizon. As we rightfully said, there have been some changes in our board. We are very fortunate that the transition has always been staggered. So not a major change overall, but a few exiting members of the board and a bit of fresh blood, as it were. So we are happy that the market has received our new chairman, Paul Karaoke, who comes from the academia or the KeNET side. And we are very thankful for the service of Mwanyota Lewela, who was our former chairman and served us on the board. And transitions are very important for us. And we are glad that this so far has been a very smooth transition. And for other subsequent board spaces, we are also having transitional leaders coming in and leaving. So we have 2 more board members who have just joined us. One from Drake, which represents the registrars. And also we have TESPOC, who are a critical shareholder, who have nominated a new member. So we've also had 2 additional directors on the board. I must also emphasize that KeNIC benefits from other independent directors who support us in terms of oversight. And the market has continued to give us a lot of very forward-looking leaders to help us manage this. In the ICT committee, for example, in the HR committee, we continue receiving a lot of support from the sector in terms of independent board members. And just like the internet governance space, where it's a multi-stakeholder approach, we also believe at KeNIC that the governance at our board level has to represent this multi-stakeholder approach, both from government, the private sector, and these independent practitioners. So we are thankful that the transition has happened and continues to happen, and it has a positive impact on our business, which we don't take for granted. Why .ke? This is a question we get a lot of time, and I'm passionate speaking about it as a chief evangelist. Let me start at the top, Gitau, when you compare .ke to .com. On a technical level, and it's important for our users to understand this, there's no difference between those 2 domains. So one is a generic domain that is used mostly in North America, where the internet really started. And one is what we call a country code top-level domain. So it is governed by the geography of a country. So that is the top-level domain for Kenya. So technically, both serve the user the same way. And so there's none that is superior or inferior. And oftentimes, customers believe that one is superior to the other, which is not the case. And there are no facts to back that up. The security, the utility is the same for both. The second point before I come to why.ke is in Kenya and on the continent, there's also been a perception that the .com is bigger, is more popular than the local domains. Again, the statistics that we have show that there's a one-to-one mapping in terms of this domain ownership. For every .ke in this country, we are comparative, if not ahead of the .com. So there's no reason for people to feel that one is being consumed overly in this country or in Africa against the local domains. So that is also a myth. We are not only leading locally, but we are the dominant domain in this space. As to why.ke, at the very top, and for Kenyan watching this, there is the identity around the .ke. It represents the country. So owning it should give people some pride. And there's nothing that can replace that. When you're a business or a government entity on .ke, it is something to be proud of. Why carry an extension for a different country? We want to be patriotic, and being a digital economy, what better place to start than with .ke? Secondly, being a fairly new domain space, there's more availability. If today you have a name of a company you want to start, an idea, an innovation, it is more likely you'll find it on the .ke domain than any other more mature domain space out there. So availability is important. Number three, there's something we call search engine optimization. The fact that you're domiciled locally, your domain is available. When it comes to searching for you online, it is more likely that you'll come up on top on any search engine than having any other extension. So again, for our users out there, we encourage them to look for an identity that will allow you to be more discoverable. So search engine optimization is critical. Number four is about your credibility. When somebody sends you an email that comes for an amorphous placeholder vis-a-vis one that comes from a name around a .ke, which one will you trust more? And everyone is telling us that any brand built around a domain like .ke is more trusted, is more credible. So as you start your business out there, there's no better place to do that than on .ke, because it gives you that credibility and helps your brand not only be out there, but to be trusted. And finally, the platform on which we built these domains, and for us is .ke, is not only reliable, secure, available. We continue to support it every day. So at the heart of getting a .ke domain is trust. So it helps your brand, your credibility, but also we help you build a trustworthy name out there. So those are some of the .ke is valuable to you. And we have many more reasons, but for now, I'll leave it there. Delivering the Kenya Domain Name System Forum 2023 would not have been possible without some of our partners, sponsors, and our fans of .ke out there. So I want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors most sincerely. They came through in a big way to ensure the success of the KDNS system forum. We also look forward to more partnership into 2024. So for those partners out there, we welcome you to come on board, help us make the internet ecosystem work for all of us.